Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Griffiths. I'm the editor of PocketGamer.Biz here at Steel Media. We're here with esteemed members of the Steel Media team, and we're going to be talking about the incredible fact, that in come 2014, it's going to be 10 years of Pocket Gamer Connect's events. I've got the team here, many of which were involved with the very, very first Pocket Gamer Connects way back in 2014 in London, and we've got our London event coming up in January. And in advance of that, we want to get together and talk about the history and how this whole incredible creative monster came about. Fellas, could you give me a quick introduction of yourselves and what you do at Steel and perhaps what you were doing 10 years ago when this whole crazy thing started?
Okay, I'll tell you a bit more about where it all started in a second, but just so we can get around. I'm Chris. I'm CEO and co-founder, a title I share with several people here, of Steel Media. And 10 years ago, as I'll show in a minute, we were already many years into. We were already about 7 or 8 years in, maybe 9 years. I don't know. Certainly we'd already had the best part of a decade before we got into doing this of Steel Media stuff, which I'll talk about in a second. But yeah.
Who's next? Jez.
Yes, so I'm Jez. I'm the creative director for Steel Media. Been there from the start with these guys. Everything creatively that we do is through myself and my team, and we hopefully get to evolve what we do as we go. So hopefully the 10 years isn't just a repeat of 10 years, but we're always looking for new ideas and new ways of presenting it.
And Joao, you're there right at the start, is that right?
I was. So yes, I'm Joao. I'm one of the co-founders. I think when the events Connects kicked off, I was probably still in the digital division doing apps or something, and certainly on the editorial side of things.
The digital division, I love it.
Remember that? But then moved across very rapidly to the events because they clearly needed my help, and I'm still behind the scenes.
And Dave, you're the relative newcomer here, besides myself, of course.
Yeah, relative. I mean, I joined Steel Media in 2016, and I'm the COO now. And however, I was kind of a hanger-on before then. I was an attendee at the first ever Pocket Gamer Connects when it launched in 2014 in London. And I've known the Steel Media team for many years before the event started. But no, I formally came on board in 2016, and these days I'm very involved in, I guess, the kind of marketing side and live at the events as well. I work with the editorial team a little bit as well, and so yeah, I intimately involved in live. I think I've been, since I joined in 2016, I've been to every single Pocket Gamer Connect.
So let's take it back to 2014.
Can I start? I know I'm going to take over already. Can I just do?
By all means. 20. The way I see it, 2014, you're doing a bunch of websites, and then somehow the penny drops about doing some events. I mean, what's the background to that?
Right. Okay. So I'm going to do something now to break up the stream very briefly, because I think it's instructive to have a very short whistle-stop tour of where we've been, because this whole thing didn't come out of, it didn't just happen overnight. Thought, oh, we should do events. It was kind of an evolution of where Steel Media was as a company. So this is how Steel Media started, and this was not in 2014. This is 2006. You might recognise some faces there. This is a picture I show a few times. John's not with us this morning, which is typical, but Joao is there. It doesn't look any different, and Jez and myself and a couple of other folks. And we basically started not doing events. We started doing consumer media. We were people with a great team. These guys certainly all had a good track record in magazines and doing the games industry and technology, and we started off doing a company together, and we wanted to we looked at a game, we were looking at something in the game space, and we looked for something that's kind of newish, and portable gaming and mobile gaming was a niche we thought was interesting that wasn't really being covered. And so as we started, we launched Pocket Gamer in 2006. Then we ended up doing this crazy ride where we ended up doing magazines and reviews for mobile phone operators. So if you wanted to buy a game back then, it was on a phone, and it was really complicated, and it cost you a fortune.
Before the App Store, right?
Yeah, it was £5 a game at least, and then you had to pay £5 to download it. So we did all that. So we basically did a lot of different things, is my point I'm making here. And then 2008, most of our stuff initially was consumer, and then 2008 we started to get into B2B with PocketGamer.Biz. We also launched France, but I'm not going into that. And that was because we saw lots of people in the industry. we were working with our clients and partners, and we saw this amazing mobile games industry with loads of great people and lots of complexity in it, but no one was really giving it any love. In fact, it was actively detested by a lot of the other industry. So that's Pocket Gamer. Won't get into that. Smartphone era came, everything changed. We did lots of stuff. Jao mentioned he was working in the apps division, the digital division. We made apps for a lot of the leading games that came onto the iPhone. 2008, 2000 was when the iPhone came in and Android and stuff, and the App Store launched, and that's when the whole world changed. And it wasn't mobile phone operators anymore, and it wasn't feature phones. And we did a ton of stuff. We did a student check. We worked with Samsung on this developer challenge. We went around all the universities getting developers to student developers to make apps for their new platform, a thing called Barda. Who's got a Barda phone still? I've got about
I don't even know what that is.
A what?
I've got about 50 still in my attic for Barda phones if we want one. It's not the most functional. So we did that. And then we did a lot of different things. Like Jazz said, he worked on the Pocket Gamer guides, which were these really cool guides. You know, you've got in the more modern video game, in old school video games, you'd have play Tomb Raider, and then you'd get this guide of how to actually beat the game because it's so very difficult. And we kind of created our own version of that for mobile apps. So for Kings, I think it was Bubble Witch, for Clash of Clans, for a few other leading games, we made these partner apps, which Jao completely ran, and they were brilliant. Never made any money. Absolutely brilliant though. They were really high quality. We wish we weren't very good at people. We did loads of other stuff. We did a smart TV event. We did a thing called Pocket Pix. Do you remember Pocket Pix? Which was our website about not Pocket games. We bought 148apps, which was one of our partners at the time, and App Spy. We did the Quality Index, which was basically a Metacritic for mobile, which still is that still existing, or is that gone now?
No,
it's gone. You missed it. It was great.
It's actually in the workings behind a lot of what the sites deliver on the front end, isn't it? So it's behind PocketGamer.com at the moment.
It's still there in the background, but yeah, it was. And then we did this magazine called Swipe, which again, Jao was kind of heavily involved in, and that actually won an award. It was an app games magazine as an app on iPad, and it was award winning. Very difficult to make any money out, but it was very so. Sadly, that's our story. Our story basically in this period was great consumer site, starting to do business to stuff and projects for people, loads of different stuff, and then we hit upon doing. Someone asked me, said, "Oh, you know everybody in the mobile industry. Can you help us? We want to do a party at GDC. GDC's big, huge industry event, but there was nothing for mobile. You know the mobile guys. Can you do it?" So I went, "All right," and they said, "Oh yeah, well obviously we'll pay for it." And it's like, all right. And then we basically did this thing where we got to invite people who were our clients and friends and industry people to come have a nice night getting drunk and having food and chatting and connecting, and someone else was paying. It was just genius. It was just the best thing ever. And that's when our event business was born, because my little head went, oh, there is a thing that we can do that we're good at, that people like, because we've all been quite and then that turned into an absolute litany of events. There's Steve Jobs, he wasn't there. And we did this was a student development for challenge we did, which was an event. I did these mobile mixers all around the world, literally. Once we got an idea in our heads, as you'll see again, we just went with it. And so this mobile mixer was like just it's a panel and drinks basically. And we did these. I don't know. We probably got up to about 7 or 8 a year of doing these for a couple of years, and all around the world. Yeah, as you can see, the Finns in the bottom left for the most enthused audience. And then that kind of evolved into other things. The mixers started coming into parties, and then. Basically, then we get towards a period we're going to talk about now, which we'll talk about in a minute, and I'll stop sharing in a second, which was going into the events proper. So I'm going to stop sharing because I don't think I need to share more from it. But that's kind of, there's loads more to show. There's a load more parties and events we ran, but I'm not going to. Might just show a couple of pictures because look, this is some of the cool stuff we did. Look at these events. Sorry, I just like showing pictures. Look, I don't know. We did so many great parties and events around the world, and this is Pocket Gamer 1. So let's go back to that. So why did we decide to do it? I'll leave that on just for a second. I was going to, and another team as well, going to events, and we saw that we'd already running our own mixers and parties and other things, and we'd been to people's conferences, and they got quite big, and it's quite a big business. And we thought, well, we run the biggest B2B media in this space. We're running these other events. Why can't we? How hard can it be? And we can do this. And then we did, and there you go. So that's it. 10 years later, here we are. No, but I think we did a lot of, and this was the first one. Yeah, so I'll stop showing the pictures in a second. But you can see there, some of we'll talk about it in a minute. It wasn't that different to what you see today. There's a lot of elements that continue to seem the same. There was networking, talks, booths, all that sort of stuff, and side events. So yeah, I'll stop my sharing for a second. So yeah, that's from my side. I've been to a lot of events. I thought some particularly inspired me. White Nights was very good. They just started just before us, and I went to one of their events in St. Petersburg. I thought this was good. It's quite fun as well. It wasn't really dry. There was an event called Mobile Games Forum that had been around for years and years and years that we used to go to, and it was small, but it was interesting. And then Casual Connect was another event around the time to develop. And we just saw these events and thought, there's not really a mobile focused one that's really good. So why can't we do that? And yeah, and obviously as a company, as I said, the reason I showed those other things is we were trying lots of different ideas. It wasn't like we just done one thing and never tried another thing. And it seemed sensible from my point of view, at least, to give it a go. So I'll stop talking now, and the other people there can tell me what they thought and why they thought it was a terrible idea.
Well, I guess that we all attended, have attended conferences in the past, and so we kind of knew what other people were doing, like you say, but it was, none of us had an actual experience of actually building a conference, so it was, it was a little bit of an unknown. But one of the beauties of what we've created at Still Media is that we're not afraid to have a go at those things, and where we don't know, we ask people that do know. And so, immediately, you've got to get in events people that actually, know how to look after people and make sure that people get in safely and all those things. But ultimately, it's the idea behind it, isn't it? So it's, I think as Chris says, nobody else was doing it for mobile. And so for us, going into that was like, well, this is a natural sort of progression, if you like, from what we were doing before. It was just a little bit more expensive. And a little bit more, sort of more moving parts to it, but yeah, that's never frightened us.
Tell us about that first London event then. So it's obviously built about the whole mixer and party stuff. Whereabouts was that first London event, and was it a huge financial risk? Were you really sticking your neck out getting it all together?
It was a terrible financial risk, wasn't it? It was absolutely frightening. Whereas if anybody's sort of bought a tab in a bar, they know how sometimes that can be a bit shocking. But imagine scaling that up and then realizing, well, you actually have to pay for lights, you have to pay for, someone to clean the place, afterwards, all those things that you wouldn't otherwise think about. The costs were frightening, first of all, weren't they? And so obviously, we've managed budgets before, quite sizable budgets as well in the past. But when you suddenly start putting these things together, it was a shock. First of all,
it was usually under someone else was underwriting it, and I think that was the big difference. Like often the bigger projects we'd done, someone else was picking up the check, so we had to manage the budget and look after it, but we weren't afraid. And this, I think it's fair to say that I particularly, and Jez might not agree, I don't know, had a slightly gung-ho approach to budgeting and projects that we could do, and I just thought, yeah, we can do this, and we'll definitely make the money back. And I didn't really realise. I think it took us quite a while. Maybe we'll come on to this to really understand the economics of events. Like I think we made profit in most of our events. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if we hadn't early on, because we just thought, there's money coming in here, and then there's another bill, and there's another bill. Didn't we have to pay for that? And that's twice as much as it was quoted. It's like a lot of things when people start. If you kind of go into it really understanding all the difficulties and the challenges, you probably don't do it, or you certainly think twice. I would say that we knew how to run parties, and my thinking was, we run editorial, we run parties and mixers. It's just the same, isn't it? Put it together, and it is more than that, to be fair. What do you say, Joe? You're in the middle of it. What's your?
I thought it was a crazy idea. So much so that I actually didn't get involved with the first one at all. I thought we weren't ready for it. But then, I'm the guy who does award-winning stuff that doesn't make money, so you probably don't want to listen to me. And the good thing that they didn't, because ultimately it was really impressive. I remember going down expecting a much smaller event, and obviously it's small by today's scales of how kind of PGC has gone on to develop. But it was, do you know what? It was a conference, and I think at the end I very happily congratulated Chris on kind of plowing through with that, because I didn't think we were ready, but actually like a lot of things at Still Media, we kind of, everyone, the team rises up to the challenge, and over the years we've always managed to overcome any kind of.
And they've always worked. All my ideas have always worked, haven't they? never stood you
just
wrong.
like mine.
So that first event, that was it. Was it the Vinopolis, which is kind of like underneath one of the arches? Can't remember what station it's nearby.
Vinopolis, right. It was like a wine museum. It was like an attraction. Next, you had like the London Dungeons, I think, nearby, and the ship. Is it the Cutty Sark or something like that? A big boat. It's probably not the case.
The Hind. Yeah, the Golden Hind.
The Hind. Sorry, that's it. Yeah, it's not the case. And there's loads of kind of like, it's a bit of a touristy bit, and it was a tourist thing based around wine. So it's kind of like a museum-y tourist thing, but it had a lot of space because I presume it was from the wine trade or the beer trade earlier on, and so it had all these subterranean levels, and we took quite a lot of it. We didn't take all of it the first year. I think we had plans to take more and more of it. Yeah, and it was a good location-wise. It was great, nice and central. It was a bit weird in that parts of it you were kind of walking past exhibits. And it was kind of like, it wasn't like in the main bit, but you just kind of go between rooms and be like, oh, whilst I'm on the route, I can learn a little bit about the history of a Chardonnay or something. It was kind of, it was a bit of an odd. It wasn't like you're going in like it's custom made, going to Excel and it's all a custom made thing. But it had character, and I think for me the character is something that really set us up to think, yeah, that's it felt us. It was a bit fun, a bit quirky. We've always looked for venues that have a bit of character ever since. One thing I'd say, Jow was very kind, giving me props. I think I definitely did drive it, and we might have had some initial discord about the idea, but there's no way this is such a team effort. Like, this is, of all the things we do, there's no way that any individual can pull this off. Like, it needs a lot of moving parts. Like Jez, we created a whole brand that didn't exist before, that looked like a professional, as Jez looked like a professional conference, looked like it'd been around for years from nothing. And there's so many different executions and things that have to come into that, from every screen, every standee, the badge, there's so much work that we don't look at. And the editorial team as well, helping really hard to get speakers in, because we hadn't really done that on that level before. That was harder, I think, than we thought. And one person who's not with the company anymore, but I think we do have to shout out to from a team perspective, is Elspeth. And she was kind of like the missing link in a way. That's a bad way. Not like she was primitive. She was the missing connection, not the missing. She was the I don't know, the fifth Beatle or whatever. She needed. She'd been working in events in the North for years, and she kind of just came in and wasn't fazed by it all, and just knew the right question to ask, and she brought in a group as well. We discovered then there's this very enclave of northern events lady mafia that exists in the kind of Newcastle and Leeds areas.
They're going to love you for saying that.
They breed them, hard up there. They're not easily swayed by things. And she brought down her group, and she kind of, listened to all our crazy ideas and tried to facilitate them and pulled off most of them. Without, but it was a huge team effort. The sales team as well at the time, obviously they got some sponsorship in to help promote tickets. It was a real team game. And we didn't get the bucking Bronco, but still waiting for that.
And tickets were sold and people showed up, and sufficient tickets were sold. You were happy with the audience. What sort of people were there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't remember the numbers now, Dave. I think you know this.
About 500 people there. So I've been keeping track of numbers.
These days, we'd probably be a bit disappointed with 500 people at conference. But for a first conference, when we'd never done it before, we were kind of blown away. We were kind of working out, if we get 200 people, will we not lose our shirts here? And people just did engage. And I think, it was because but remember, like, this is why I was showing that little preview bit. It's not like we'd come into this from nowhere. We'd been the voice of an industry that didn't have a voice, both consumer and B2B, for the past 8 or 9 years. We've been running events with all these people. So there was, the people that made the games, the people that did the monetization services and the advertising services, the tool makers, the investors. The cross section was kind of similar to how it is today. It's what we wanted to do always, was to have a cross section, not to be just game developers and not to be just business, but to bring everyone together. And and I think we achieved that. Yeah, as obviously in a microcosm, but that's it was a good. I mean, Dave, you came, so you've not spoken.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
No, it was absolutely, as you've said. I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. I came as an attendee and as a friend of the team. I was working for a different publishing company at the time, but I came along. It felt fully formed. If you told me that it was your 5th event when I turned up, I wouldn't have been surprised. It felt incredibly established, and it was really busy. I remember walking in and finding myself. It also had a very friendly vibe, which I think is maintained throughout the 10 years. I walked in as a kind of relative newcomer who knew some people who were involved in it, but wasn't particularly immersed in the mobile gaming scene, and was immediately embraced by some mobile indie developers, and found myself having a drink with them and talking about what they'd done. And that sort of welcoming games industry family vibe felt like it was there straight out of the box, and has kind of been there ever since.
That's exactly right, Dave. Actually, the word family has been bounded around quite a few times at our events. That when people come, there's obviously familiar faces, people that sort of have come sort of regularly to each of our events, and they do, after a while, sort of start to feel like family. And equally they refer to us as family, and they deal with all the events team, as such, with the respect that obviously they deserve, and it's got a real good vibe, like you say, Dave.
Yeah, and I think that was there right from the start. And you mentioned about the fact that it was at Vinopolis. That was I mean, it was an interesting venue. I remember being kind of it had character, and I don't know whether this was deliberate, but when the event grew, you moved to the brewery. Was there a deliberate attempt to find booze-related venues?
I mean, it's just
just to prove that we could do something in a brewery. Yeah,
we did. But that was only because they shut it. The only reason we left Vinopolis is because it got closed down and turned into flats. We have had a bit of a record of helping gentrification, I believe it's known as. We've had venues where we kind of go. And they sort of closed. But yeah, so that we had space to grow there for a few years, and we kind of thought that was going to be our home, because we just, once you find a venue that kind of works, there's always maybe better ones out there, but it's one less thing to have to worry about and learn about each time. And so yeah, we'd have stayed there if we could. But yeah, I think we did 2 years there. Did we do 2 years there?
That's right. Yeah.
And then we had to move because they moved it. What I want to say, one of the couple of things we did, because I was looking through this, I was looking at your questions, I was thinking about it, and I'd forgotten some of the stuff we did. Like, some of the stuff we do is still the same now. We had talks, we had panels, but we were really kind of try hard, trying to make it fun and different and whatever. And we had a few things I remember now. We had this thing called we had the Indie Rock Stars, which was like a side panel. We're just sitting there like on a quiz show at Buzzcocks, kind of cross-questioning people on their talk or their panel in one of the tracks. And it was the idea. I kind of still stand with something in it, but in fact, I don't think it went particularly well, because it's like someone's doing a talk and then someone interjects at the end and goes, "Oh, I'm not sure about that." And it wasn't like the whole day, but it was like a couple of hours. And,
was it like kind of the Strictly judges? Is that how it was?
Yeah, it was a bit like that. I think it was just some pitching in it as well, but it was definitely just some panels and talks. And that was one idea. Then we had the open mic stage. Do you remember that? We had I think we had 3 stages, and one of them, or maybe the 4th stage, was open mic, which is like an auditorium where people could there was like a sort of a board where you can just write, like a sort of blackboard type thing on the outside, write down, a space, and you come and do a talk. And there were some people just sat there because it was like a chill out area. And but I don't think we did that again. I think Oscar was probably most enthusiastic about that. He was talking a bit. And then
didn't you do something with boxing gloves? Was there a boxing glove thing? I saw.
No, that was the what's that called? Battle panels. That's something we've done at our mixers. We did these battle panels where it was like, should it be freemium or should it be premium games? And you'd have a panel of 2 or 3 on each side wearing boxing gloves, and I put these funny pictures of them together with their face and the head of boxers with these CEOs of these game companies. But that's what we always did. I thought it was quite funny. And then we'd have this, that would be like the theme of the night, and then people would write who won the round and stuff. It was a really cool thing. We wish you should bring back at some point, but it was fine when it was an event on its own, but then it's a lot of organization for just a side bit. The other thing we did, which I'd forgotten about, and again, I was looking at this, my notes for it, is I spent loads of time with, probably I drove Ellsworth mad, I know I did, queuing up walk-on music for every speaker. So I was going through on the main stage at least. I was going through going, okay, oh, it's a global thing. Everyone wants to rule the world or something. And I was just going through trying to pick themed music tracks that they could use for the 5 seconds I'm coming on. And it's like we've never done that again. We only occasionally even use Warcom music now, but it was just I don't know. It was we were trying to do different stuff. And the final thing I remember we did is we were trying to do experiences, London experiences. Like one time we had a bus that took you to the party, and this one year, I think it was the first year, maybe the second, but we got these Italian Job mini tour of London. So the idea is you get a few people sitting and you drive around these 3 minis through the streets of London. Sounds brilliant, right? If you watch the Italian Job, that'd be fun. If you apply that with any sort of thought at all to the streets of London on an average day, basically what it is a slow motion being set in traffic, moving about 3 miles, shivering along in a vehicle that's very low down, so you can't actually see anything either. So
and they were all late for their meetings as well.
Yeah, they were all late because obviously it's supposed to take half an hour, and it took them about an hour to get back. It was just sorry. Anyway, but that first one we tried a lot of stuff, and a lot of it we kept, and some of it we didn't. But yeah,
I'm intrigued by when Connect went international the first time. That must have been organising it in London seems hard enough, but taking that to the global arena. What was the first international gig?
Helsinki. It was Helsinki. Right. And actually, and I will shut up and let everybody else speak, but that was actually planned. We almost launched in Helsinki before London because I was out there talking to people that run an event called Slush, which is a huge investor event in Helsinki, because Helsinki's like our spiritual second home for the company. We've been going there a lot. We've got a lot of partners there, and the mobile games industry was huge in Finland with Supercell, Rovio, Nudge Games, all that stuff. And anyway, we've been talking to them about running an event, and I said I wanted to run an event, and this guy called Peter Vesterbacker, who was the mighty eagle of Rovio and also was involved in setting up Slush and Mobile Mondays. He's a bit of a big ideas guy, and he was going, oh yeah, we should do it. We should do it. Slush wants to have these other events as part of Slush as an umbrella, and you could bring PG Connects and you could do all the game stuff. And we spent probably about a month going back and forth trying to sort it out, and it didn't quite come in the end. But that was all in our head. So then, when the first one had gone well, it was right. Okay, how can we do that? When do we do the Helsinki one? And so we went back and we recognised we can make money, and the model worked. So let's go and do it in Helsinki.
Well, before that though, Chris, we actually said that we were only going to do one for the first year, didn't we? We said, yeah, we did.
I don't remember that. I was pretty clear, I think, from the off that it was
starting year and then working out you're going to do twice as many events as you think. Doesn't sound like us.
Before we even went into London, we exactly like you say, we'd ruled Helsinki out because it, why would you do your first event outside of the country that you're all in? Surely it's going to be easier to do it in London. But actually, as we got nearer and nearer to London, it was like, actually, we can scale this up and we can do this pretty much anywhere. And so why not do Helsinki? So I think maybe the contract wasn't necessarily signed, but we were certainly, we'd certainly kind of penciled it in, into the diary as happening. And of course, that was a surprise because we only said we were going to do one for that year. And then we did two.
Sure,
and then we jumped from two to wherever we are now. Yeah.
Well, I have 7 of us.
7? I mean,
something like that this year. I mean, I have to say, one of the things that I always found extremely inspiring about Steel Media, and one of the things that attracted me to come and work for the company, is how international it thinks. Actually, for a small company that started with the media in this niche at the time, kind of niche space, headquartered in Bath, although with employees and clients and contractors everywhere. Within a few years, was thinking really internationally in a way that even some big companies don't think about. And I mean, looking to Asia and looking to the Middle East, and and Steel Media's embraced all these areas. I mean, it hasn't run a PG Connects in Latin America yet, but it certainly has been over there and visited other conferences there. With events in America, North America, and that was apparent really early on. I mean, I remember I wasn't able to attend myself. And I don't know how they went, but I know you ran events in India, in Bangalore, quite early on, right, in about 2015, but also, by 2015 you were doing events in San Francisco and so on. And I think that you can even see really big media companies staying within a very kind of quite tight zone, really. And Steel Media is always, even right after that first year when it was London and Helsinki, immediately looked to to support other territories around the world. And I think that's very impressive, and it still excites me.
But again, I would point out, again, like that's really nice to hear that. And I know we definitely have a bigger halo than we are as a business. People think we're some huge business. Well, we have maybe 50 people now, which is probably about as big as I've ever been, but we've never been that big. But I think the point about the company and the industry has always been a global industry. And like actually, most of our partners and our bigger partners came from overseas. I've been going to States a lot. I've been going to China a lot, actually, from about 2008 onwards. We had a big partner out there. We worked with quite a few partners, and the Chinese games industry was like really growing really quick. And likewise, we had advertisers in Korea and Asia, and obviously we're going to Finland. So actually, most of our partners and revenues were coming from overseas anyway. It's not like we were ever sat here as we weren't like a biscuit manufacturer and we sold to the local. We didn't. If you look at our business as a whole, the UK part of it, putting aside these days now London's tickets and stuff, UK is not actually a huge. We're kind of an exporter. There you go, government. So we're an exporter rather than an importer. I think that means because most of our revenues come from overseas. So we were used to traveling. It wasn't, and we've been doing these mixes everywhere. Like when we did the mixes, we were constantly. We went to everywhere, and just wherever someone wanted goes. Oh, I want to run an event for the mobile industry in blah. Can you do it? And we went, yeah, all right. Which is my standard response. And so it's I don't think it felt as scary. I mean, maybe it did internally. I don't remember being like the idea of being in another country being daunting. I think the idea of will we get enough sponsorship and will we get enough people coming and when's the right time to do it was the kind of the fear, and not could we do this? I didn't ever really feel it was a challenge. I don't know. Maybe we did have lots of conversations and I just blanked them out. I don't know.
No, because I think the team was prepared to. I think if you kind of alluded to that, Dave. If you can run an event in London, you can run an event anywhere. Really, I mean, the mechanics of it are the same. It gets a little bit more complicated, obviously, with time zones and you having to deal remotely. But I think one of the key things for me of that period, traumatic as it was at times, but in a good way, was just how reactive and how tight the team was. And so actually, I think from an outside perspective, I can imagine people think there was this huge team and probably still is this huge team, involved in these events. And actually, when you break it down, the number of people delivering that event was astoundingly small. But that's because everyone did play their part very well and very efficiently. And so we ran these things really, really tightly. And of course, you're going to have hiccups from suppliers or venues or whatever, but everything, as I kind of mentioned earlier, everything that came along, we overcame rather. So the idea of going to India or Hong Kong or elsewhere, it's just another event somewhere else, but the mechanics and the approach is the same.
I think the interesting thing, like Jez said, and so we were only going to do one. I don't recall that, but let's assume it was the case. But then the thing that I don't know how I managed to get away with is like we went from like one event and having never done a conference before to doing a second the same year, and then the next year I was looking at this. I forgot it was the next year. We did 4.
Yep.
We went from literally first event year 1 January, September. The way our financial years worked, actually, it was a different financial year. But anyway, for a calendar year, it was the same one. And then the second year, we did London again, Bangalore, San Francisco, and Helsinki. So we done it. It got to from just one event to year 2, a quarterly event, effectively.
So far, all we've heard is that it was a great success and it was dead easy, and everything just went upwards. The wheels must have fallen off at some point, and you must have been scratching your head saying, "What on earth have I done? Have you got any? What was the first disaster, and was it ever averted, or did you drive headlong into it?"
So many disasters.
The thing is, when you're working on events, there's always kind of minor things that go on behind the scenes that you need to solve. So you're always sort of constantly overcoming challenges and course correcting. In terms of things that have kind of gone wildly awry, I mean, a few things spring to mind, and obviously you might have to change the names to protect the innocent. But there's a few before I joined, because I think it might have been the year that I joined, but I joined just too late to attend. Bangalore, right? Did I hear that you went there? Straight in there. Did I hear that you had to host the exhibition area outside in the Indian heat? Is that a thing that happened? Because that was sort of as passed into Steel Media legend.
So many stories with Bangalore, just so many. It was just the gift that keeps on giving for this segment. Yeah, it was amazing. We worked with a partner, Reliance Games. Reliance are a massive company in India, obviously one of the big. We worked with their games partner, and they literally come to me and gone, "Oh, we want to." We'd loved your event. We'd like to see something in India. Can you do it with us? And we said, yeah, why not? So the event, in the end, went well. But we turned up and we know what to expect. I've never been to India before. It was kind of hot and different, but it was in a luxury hotel, so it's okay. And then we're kind of doing our usual thing before the event. This will be our 4th event, so we're veterans now, and we're kind of going in. We've got our bits and we're getting ready and prepping. And we're going, so where's it all going to be? Where's the index? Oh yeah, it's going to be in here, and we're going to do the expo, blah, blah. And we're going, okay, but so when are you going to put that? Oh yeah, don't worry, yeah, don't worry. And it kind of got to about, I want to say about 7 or 8 p.m. the night before the event was due to start, and there was virtually nothing. There was virtually no signage. There was no kind of expo. We had a few things we'd done ready, but it was just like they showed us the areas and they're nice halls and everything. I was going, okay, are you sure this is going to happen? Because we're like, I don't know how it works here, but this seems to me like worrying. And then we all kind of went, well, whatever. We had a reception thing and which went nice. We went to bed and then came in the next morning, and it's just all done. It's like magic elves. It's like it's like a fairy story where they've just had the bootmaker come in. They've just done it all. And if you look quite closely, you'd see that. It looked beautiful, but if you looked a bit too close, you could see it was kind of on the back of road signs and stuff. It was been very kind of, I don't know, that's just how it's, they'd repurposed vinyls to which fair enough. But it looked great. Apart from the fact that the expo was outside in the courtyard. And we were like, right, okay, so this is this is how it works. This is how it works. Are you sure? Yeah, the sponsors expect this. They're fine. And we brought our own sponsors. They had their sponsors and we brought our sponsors. And we're like going, okay, but it's pretty hot outside. He goes, oh yeah, they've got fans. And they had this little, it's like one of those little fans you kind of buy at a fairground and just kind of dies after 30 seconds. There's fans on, and you go, okay. And bizarrely enough, the expo area wasn't very populated because you had a choice of being in air-conditioned halls and talks and coffee areas, or outside in the baking heat. Because when was it? What was the date? It was like May or June or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, sort of May, I think, or maybe end of April. But yeah, around about then.
And we was like, okay, and we actually had to physically bring a couple of our sponsor spaces inside, like just move some of their bits because they were like kicking off, and rightly so, to be fair. The best thing though about this story, just to conclude, is year 2, we're going back, different hotel, but same sort of setup. We're a bit less stressed about things, being done last minute because we've got it now. But we're very clear. We could not be more clear. The expo is definitely going to be in that hall inside. Yeah. Yes. The whole shaking heads both ways, nodding. Yeah. Definitely going to be. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay, fine. I go to bed. Next day, come out outside again. It's just outside, and you're like, what? And obviously, then we are having to, because the problem for us is that we are then, we have sponsors, and and sponsors, they're paying, they have demands, and most of the time they're relatively reasonable. Sometimes not, but most of the time they are. But you're kind of having to go around smiling and nodding and going, yeah, you're right, you shouldn't be out here, but I'm not sure what to say at this point. And but yeah, that was our last year in Bangalore for the moment. Yeah, that was there's plenty more stories about Bangalore, but yeah, I don't know. You got any chow? I think it's like that. Is that scene in Shakespeare in Love where the producer guy is always going, I don't know why it just works, but it does. It's a mystery. It's kind of like that. Everything's a constant state of mini crisis that no one that comes to the event will really understand. But you're kind of going, oh, so and so.
Yeah, I mean, my take has always been, if you're enjoying the event, you're not doing it right, because there's always a battle to fight somewhere along the lines. But as I said, I can't actually, Daniel, you asked about disasters. I can't think of any, frankly. I can think of attendances that weren't perhaps as high as we'd hoped in the earlier days. I can think of arguments with venues over kind of post-event costs and bills and so on. And obviously along the way there would have been, well, there were a few kind of hiccups to get over, but that's, you know, as Dave says, that's just events. That's kind of every week has its own challenge.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a PGC where the team didn't deliver, you know, and yes, I think some of the locations perhaps didn't go down as well with some sponsors for some of the reasons that you know, that Chris mentioned, but I can't genuinely think of an event that we didn't come away with more positives than negatives.
Absolutely.
And in fact, very few negatives over the years.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know what you guys have been doing since I've left. Probably all been
It all fell apart.
Much better now. It's much better now, Jazz.
It's funny to say that.
Now you make money. You don't win awards, but you make money.
To the point that, you know, there is something I can think of in our Hong Kong event that's just worth saying. But all of these things, you're right, Joel, completely. We battled through. But it's funny you were saying that about events. All events have stuff in the background that goes wrong. You know, the infamous Fire Festival, which of course there's been a number of documentaries about because it felt
that wasn't one of ours.
Wasn't one of ours. It wasn't one of ours. But there's an interesting point in that documentary where you could see as the documentary unfolds all these things going wrong with the island that they're going out to and the venue and the setup and the food. And someone in one of the interviewer asks, "Well, why didn't you see this coming?" And the logistics person says, but all events feel this bad. And that's kind of true, unfortunately. In the run up to every event, there's always kind of this sort of rolling things you've got to solve. The thing I was going to say is out in Hong Kong, we did have another very hot territory, a beautiful kind of purpose-built centre that we were running a conference in alongside an esports tournament that was there, and a very big blockchain presence as well. And then this was in the summer. So in the summer, a very, very humid environment in Hong Kong, and the air conditioning broke in the whole venue. It went down, which was, you know, an unexpected challenge. It made the climate suddenly collapses on you. Bless them, our local hosts bought everyone ice cream, I remember, which smoothed if I remember correctly, how they dealt with the problem. They came round smiling with buckets of ice cream, which actually did, surprisingly, turns out that exactly what you need to get through an hour of no air.
And that was a government agency. I mean, they were very good, nice. But that was like Hong Kong's main government agency. I think at one point the CEO at the time was Carrie Lam. I think it was going to come, and she did in the end. But that was a nice. That was their proper complex. It wasn't like. Yeah, but yeah, the AV went off. I've got one other thing I've got to share, which is just going to not be. It's going to celebrate someone else in our team. And this was these things happen all the time, but this is a particularly bad AV experience in London. I think it was 3 years ago. So one of our biggest shows. And we just had to use this new and very expensive AV company. And they're a bit behind setting up, so we're new this year, blah, blah. But they had loads of people around it. It was and seemed to be going okay. Day of the event, for some reason, they don't use any of the people, it appears, that were actually setting up the event, and just use a whole new crew. And the guy on my stage, and I tend to open the thing with a little talk, and it was about 10, 15 minutes before it's due to start. The guy on my stage was sat down at his AV desk going, "How does this work then?" And literally, he didn't seem to know how to use a computer. And it was like, obviously, their company's kit. It wasn't the stuff we provided him with. He's like, "Oh, I'm not really used to doing this." And it got to a point he was going, "So what's a PDF then?" And like, I was stood behind him going, "We've got probably about 8 minutes now to this thing's got to kick off. We've got quite a packed schedule. I can't really push it back." And I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I'm going to kill you." And the guy was going, "Right." And then Catherine, who's one of our events team, Catherine, an absolute star. She is kind of like this Zen-like constant piece, this kind of still point in a turning world. And she just came across to me. She went, "Let me show you. So what you do is you take the mouse, click that, and you move that to there. Is that all right?" And I was just going, "How could you be so calm?" I was like, there was another world in which I was like, but yeah, but that's the sort of stuff. AV is one of those things that you just look at the bill at the end and go, "What? Sorry, I don't want to buy all the TVs. I don't want to buy the lighting. I'm just going to rent it for 2 days." It's always one of the biggest costs, and when it works, it's great, and when it doesn't, you just go, "Oh, you've had so much time and so much money to do this. Why is this not working?" And we got stiffed in Bangalore. That's the one thing I want to say on public. Never got paid by Reliance. So if they want to pay that second check ever, then they can do, because they didn't. That was one of 2 events. I don't even think we lost money, but we didn't make much there of anything. The only event we ever lost money was in Vancouver, which was a beautiful venue and great city and everything. We just didn't quite work for us.
Yeah, Vancouver was bittersweet, wasn't it? Like you say, it was absolutely fantastic venue. You know, if anybody gets a chance to go to Vancouver, do it. But clearly, you know, our attendees didn't want to go to Vancouver that day, it seemed.
No, they wanted us. They wanted us to come to Vancouver, or local Vancouvers. They just didn't want to come and support the event that they wanted us to come to. It's like, okay, well, that's why you've not got an event. So there you go. Shout outs to Vancouver, and which I do love. My sister lives out there, and to Bangalore.
Let's talk best event ever, and why. You know, is it just virtue of selling the place out and everyone turning up, or was there any kind of defining moments where you thought, yes, this is the moment that we've been working towards?
I think we've done some. I mean, all events have their highlights. I mean, you're absolutely right. The London event's grown hugely year on year, and so in seeing so many people in one place having a great time is always gratifying. And it was so this year was you know you'd be hard pushed not to look at the London event from 2023 and think that was incredible. But there are certain things that running these conferences gives you an opportunity to do that you might not otherwise. For instance, we're going to be back in Jordan again in November 2023, and we've been running that conference for a few years, and that's in one of the most historic and beautiful parts of the world. And Pocket Gamer Connects has given international delegates, including us, the chance to go to Petra, which is on most people's bucket list. You know, the huge desert structure that's in Indiana Jones, for instance. And I think the first time we ran an event there, we had a great local partner in the Jordan Gaming Lab and the KAFD out there and so on. So we had help, help on the ground. But that was interesting, running an event and then just so close to the event, being out in the desert and going to see like some incredible things. That for me was oh wow, this is really open. You know, give us an opportunity to do something unusual.
What about you, Joe? What's your favourite?
Last one. You know, I've missed a few. I don't know if you've noticed. I haven't been there. I think. Well, actually, because I was there this year, I can't obviously speak for the events I haven't been to, but I thought London this year was spectacular. Everything worked as far as I could tell. I mean, I wasn't in the entire, you know, I spent most of the time in the downstairs track rooms, but everyone on stage that I kind of saw, from compares to speakers, you kind of just seemed to deliver, and everything seemed to work. I'm not privy to some of the hiccups behind the scenes these days, but from the perspective of someone attending, and you know, still involved, obviously photographing the entire thing, I just thought every element seemed to work, and of course was hugely attended as well. You know, people just seemed to be having a really good time and really enjoying it, and yeah, it seemed well structured. Content seemed to flow, and everyone did their job.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I mean, asking to pick, you know, which is your favourite shows. These are all our babies. All of these events gets a lot of love and attention and late nights and stress poured into them. So, you know, I wouldn't like to choose between. I only have one kid, so it's quite easy to choose that way. But I think the first one for me stood out because we'd just done it, and like I would never. I seem to have a bit of a gun cat attitude and think, of course we'll be able to do it, but when we'd actually done it, getting close to it, there was some nerves. So actually delivering and people saying to us, well, you can build the next Gamescom here and things like that. And just being really, the overall positive was, I found that really it really sort of hit home, really touched me, got me in the feels, as they say. But, you know, I get excited by new venues. When we first went to San Francisco or Bangalore or Hong Kong or Vancouver, Seattle, Toronto, Jordan, Dubai this year, there was a bit of excitement there and a bit of fear as well about a new one. I think probably London's though, yeah. Between London and Helsinki, because they're the original ones, and the vibe there, you're always assured of a decent turnout. Like PGC London is just a fixture. We're not as big as GDC or Gamescom, but we are a genuine international fixture for a lot of people now. And you know, you start a year, I'm in London, and so because once you get the attendance and the expectation of different companies, that does a lot of work for you as well. But I think because we're staying in the same venue and we keep a lot of we're constantly trying to make sure we keep a balance and we make sure it's a good balance. It's not all just vendors. We get a balance between the people that make the great tools and the services and the people that actually make the games. We always try to make more game makers than anything else. I think the vibe still feels the same, and that's probably most gratifying. That, like Jazz said last year, it's still being our biggest ever event, but still having that same vibe. There's always a moment in the event, sometimes at the party, sometimes during the day, where I'll just kind of happen on a conversation or just get a sense of something where people are just accidentally connecting and meeting and go, I haven't seen you for ages, I've got this opportunity. And you can just see there's like a new thing is forming there, a new deal or opportunity. And everyone's just kind of happy. And there's this kind of, the games industry family thing is something I overuse, but it is that's when I know we've got it right, and I think we get that right more often than not in most of our, in probably all of our events, but certainly in London, it's always been present there for us. Even the pre-COVID one was actually our high in some ways. It wasn't the biggest ever, this was last year, but that was brilliant. I remember the time thinking, this is great, like 2019, 2020 rather. This was like, God, this is just how this year's going to be so exciting, so big. And we got, wow, look at this. And then obviously, think that the world changed, and it wasn't. There wasn't.
We had no inkling, did we? Yeah,
no inkling.
When that was happening, exactly like you say, it suddenly put in place in front of us that 2020 was going to be brilliant because we had no inkling what was about to happen. And all the plans were in place for 2020. Everything looked like it was going in the right direction.
Yeah. We were going out. We're going to go to APAC. I was working on plans to start launching a kind of more APAC activities. We'd already one in Hong Kong. We could do that again. Talking to people in Korea, Japan, Southeast Asia about opportunities to do events there. Obviously that was that all got shelved pretty quickly.
We were on the cusp of doing an event in Seattle that year, weren't we? I mean, I think the shutdown came in March 2020, and I think we would have been running an event at the start of May in America.
It started in February though, because I was traveling. I was in Helsinki for the INGA's International Games Awards, judging and checking some venue stuff and partners, and then I was in Barcelona because my family's out there as well, and for Mobile World Congress, and just going to be there. But then Mobile Congress didn't happen, and then I just after that we had already booked to go to Jordan to look at a new venue, and then I was going to GDC, and I did go to Jordan with Sally. It was there with Sally, and while we were there, just like everything stopped. Just like it was already ratcheting down, but it just kind of just stopped. GDC was gone, and that's actually when we sat. We were already talking about, could we do a small digital thing? And literally, it was really kind of came together probably that week. It's like, yeah, let's just do it. We can do a digital PGC digital. How hard can it be? Easy. And we came up with that idea as a proper idea. It came to really quickly. Early March, April the 6th, the first one was out, and and we did. Yeah, we turned around. I'm not saying the first one was excellent. There was a lot of problems with it, but we learned from that and then moved forward. But like we turned into this digital event company overnight when everyone else was panicking and laying people off and like, events all over for events. We kind of managed to become a digital events business and the premier games. I mean, we did like 10, I think, and the next over the
10. We did 10, I think, and including a new event we ran Beyond Games. We ran a digital only in I think May 21. Yeah.
I think we were actually hiring people at the time when everybody else was furloughing, laying people off. We actually needed more resources because and I think that the point about that is not to. It was a very tough time for everybody, obviously, on all sorts of levels, but it was. You still needed to connect the industry. The function we're performing was still needed, and in a way, it kind of underlined exactly why what we do and other events and media do is important, because that kind of the sandwich or the jelly or the butter, I don't know, whatever, the bit as the glue between the bricks, I don't know, think of a better analogy, that's needed. People need to have those, business needs to continue. You can't just stop. And the games industry actually, as we know now, had a bit of a bumper time during that period, but people still need to get deals done and talk about how they could put new tools and advertising techniques in their game, and we kind of facilitated that happening. I'm so I guess talking about high points in a way, I'm kind of proudest of that we just always kept it going, and that's a symbol of the company as a whole. We just keep, we have adversity, everybody, but we've kind of managed to pivot and roll with the punches and drive it forward. So sorry, that was a very long answer.
One last thing, just to wrap it up, because I'm aware that we're running short of time. Plans for the future. What's next? What do you want to do that you haven't done already?
APAC. We did this year. We've done MENA. We've been big in. We've run 3 events. We're probably the biggest games industry event company in MENA now, and Dubai, Saudi, and Jordan. And yeah, the next thing for me at least is to look forward to opportunities in Asia again, which we had planned doing before the COVID hit, because I think that's again a market where we have clients and partners, and there's a very exciting stuff happening, Southeast Asia especially. So I'm actually going out to Singapore next week to sort of as part of that start thinking. It might not be next year, it might take us 12 months to get something in place, but definitely will. It definitely won't be next year, lads.
No,
I
that's good.
guess before then we're looking at San Francisco, isn't it? Which is
Of course.
where we not where we started, but certainly was one of the earlier locations that we sort of moved away from, in recent years. But actually, going back to San Francisco in
2015, we did San
March.
Francisco.
I have to remind myself. Yeah, we're going in March. Is it's very exciting. Just to go back there, see how it's changed. See if we've still got the support that we think we should have. Yeah.
Yes, it's going to be very exciting, and we're at a new venue for that as well, aren't we? The Hibernia Hotel, which looks amazing. A lot of character downtown.
It's an old bank, isn't it? So there's a vault in there and stuff. So in event of
Yeah.
COVID again, we just lock the door. No, don't that be bad. The air flow and everything. But yeah, no, we've got a whole next year. We're actually about to announce. We've got London, which we announced. We'll be announcing San Francisco very shortly, probably in this video, and then we'll be back in Dubai in May, and got Helsinki locked in September, and then we're just working out what we're going to do. We've got a few slots. We're just thinking what we do with events around that. But yeah, we might not do 7 next year.
Well,
that might be.
We'll see. But I mean, that's the thing. Is
who knows?
If you want to grow a business like ours, you have to either do more events, or the events you've got to grow as well. And I think one of the things we're looking forward to with London is growing the size of that. I mean, since it's launched in 2014, we're now 5 times the size in London that we were there. Maybe a little bit more than that. Maybe looking to be 6. So I think the question is, how do we take that and make it 10 times what it was when it started? And we're sort of growing towards that. So this year in London, we've got a little bit more space, right, Jez? We've got a couple of marquees outside to accommodate people.
I mean, even that venue itself is, sometimes it felt like there was sort of squeezing points, throughout the venue. But going back to what we were originally saying, is just bringing people together, bringing that CEO to that, alongside that indie dev, and being able to make those almost accidental meetings, is a beauty of what we kind of design within our venues, isn't it? In terms of, how we sort of move people around the venue, it kind of facilitates that. So hopefully we've got a little bit more space there, but the fact that everybody's sat in the same room is a good thing.
Yeah,
I think you're right, Jez, and I don't think there are big venues like Excel available, but I think it's very difficult to kind of maintain the sort of industry family togetherness in these big cavernous, aircraft hangar type places. So we're very selective about venues when we, they probably are a bit quirkier. Like the venue we have in Helsinki, Vanha Satamaa, is kind of similar to the brewery in many ways. The one we also used is an old factory. We always look for something that's it's kind of a talking point in itself. So yeah. And before that, actually, so next year we've got first half planned. And before that, of course, we've still got Jordan coming up in chance to go to see one of the wonders of the world in Petra. That's coming up in about a month's time. And then we will be in Saudi Arabia a month after for our Leaders Summit, which is a sea-level event we launched last year, which is went very well. So we can do that again. So yeah.
Amazing stuff. I look on with all. Congratulations, fellas, for 10 years. It's for 10 more years.
Thank you.
Let's call it a day.
Thank you.
Where's my cake? Where's the cake? You promised the cake.
I'll see what I can magic up later. João, Dave, Jez, Chris, thank you so much for this. Highly illuminating, and
Thank you, Daniel.
all the best for the future.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys.